All right. All right, feel your feet on the ground, take a deep breath. Just be present with your body right here. Feel the breath gently move in and out of your body. Feel your feet on the floor and do a quick check about where your weight is and just gain the information from where your body is loaded. And the simple thing of, is your body heavier on one foot than the other, more forward on your toes or more on your heels? Where are your hands hanging? Gives us information as to just how your body is loaded in space. All right, and then take your fingers and bring them to your cheekbones and just tap your cheekbones. And then bring your fingers down to your collarbones and then inch below your collarbone and just tap that space right there. And whether this is a little woo-woo or not, we can just say that the ancient Chinese medicine and ancient Indian medicine has been around for a really long time. And if we can gain some of their knowledge and bring that into our body, then we're doing good things, I think. Good. Your Tarzan point right at your sternum. And this is like bringing some vitality into your body. You can tap it or rub it, tap it with your fingers or give it a good bonk and just increase your vital energy in the system. And then move down to your Spleen Meridian. That's right underneath your rib cage, and give that a tap. And then cross the right and left side of your body by putting one hand on one shoulder and pulling it across to bring the two sides, switching sides, the two sides in harmony with each other from right to left. Good. Bring that into a little bit more by taking it into a cross crawl. And then you have energy centers from your base of your pelvis all the way up. Go ahead and just zip it up like you're zipping up your coat, just going through all of them. And then open the top of your head from your forehead. Pry it open like you're opening the space to receive inspiration and good energy through the crown of your head all the way to the base of your neck. And that should feel good too, just points on your head that get worked. All right, thumbs right to the middle of your forehead and fingers up, and just hold that point for a moment. And then bring one hand down, thumb or into your belly button, and then right in that same point in your forehead, this is the hook up. And you want to pull up on those 2 points. And your body will probably just go, when that hookup happens, you'll feel yourself take a deep breath, just kind of automatically. and then cross one ankle over the other knee. You can sit down for this one if you want to, or use it as a balance exercise. So right leg crossing over left hand to your front of your shin, and then cross the bottom of the foot and hold. And then switch. Cross the ankle over the knee, bring the hand to the front of the ankle, and then cross bottom of the foot. And then both down, and then one hand down to the earth, other hand up to the sky, big full breath. And switch. Big full breath. I think I got them all. All right. Feet pointed straight ahead. So I woke up this morning, since you all get to do some of what I did. I looked in the mirror and I had this big difference between the right and left hip. So I thought we'd do some pelvic balancing exercises today to get the right and left side. So that's work on the psoas, work on the glutes, work on maybe the abdominals, how they connect into the rib cage, to balance out the pelvis. 17 muscles that connect in and around the pelvis to help bring that to a more neutral position. So hopefully you're in that same boat too, and we can all have more balance to the pelvis, kind of the brain of our bodies. So let's go ahead and start down on the floor, and go ahead and just come down to a lying down position, feet on the floor, knees bent, and give your body a moment just to settle. Feel the breath move into your body. Expand your rib cage in that east to west direction. Take a full breath. So base muscles here in this central channel are like your neck flexors. So we want both a curve and length in your neck. We want the diaphragm to be working really well. The floor is holding your pelvis so that it's stable. And then let's start at the deepest muscles of your pelvis and kind of work outward. So take your right foot extended out on the floor and do a set of femur rotations out and in. And just allow the femur to direct some of the position of the pelvis. Deep 6. And pull that in, switch sides. 10 rotations on that other side, out and in. First side again. Stretch it out. And switch. And the last one. 10 more. And switch. Last side, last 10. Foot out and in, thigh tight. Working the rotation from the hip joint out and in. Excellent. Now bring your knees in towards your chest
as long as there's no pain as you bring your legs up into this position. If you feel like that's too much on your back this early in the morning, please listen to that. Your back's being held in a neutral position, but it does need to tip backwards just slightly. And if you have discomfort and it's early in the morning, especially, and those discs are a little swollen and filled with fluid, and that hurts or causes any sciatic pain, please skip this one. Otherwise, find your hip flexors, work your thighs. Your pelvis, once again, is being held by the floor. So if your pelvis was out of level, then just the floor holding your pelvis stable and forcing your hip flexors, your primary hip flexor, to do that lift and release, we're going to start to even some things out. All the way up, all the way down. Let's do 3 more. And then set your feet down, place your feet on the floor, find your butt muscles, and squeeze and release your glutes. Let's do a set of 20. Squeeze your butt muscles. So we're moving to the next layer of muscles. Glutes are both stabilizing to your pelvis and a mover. When they move, they extend the hip and externally rotate. But right now, we're just activating them as a pelvic stabilizer more than a hip extender. So squeeze them, allow the glutes to help pull the pelvis to a neutral position, and release. Keep going. If you have a leg bone that's turning in or a medial femur, this can help bring that femur out. Also, just lying down here on the floor, we get mild thoracic extension. As the pelvis comes into a neutral position, it starts to work the vertebrae up your back, letting your upper back come into the right position. And put the bottom of your feet together. Allow your knees to drop out into a frog. So again, femur-driven external rotation. Just opening up that space. This can work to change sciatic pain sometimes. It can work to just balance the pelvis. If there's rotation in the pelvis or elevation in the pelvis, we can use this to just keep bringing the pelvis to neutral. Hold it out there. Let's go ahead and add our upper body. Arms out to the side. Squeeze your shoulders underneath your back, kind of down and back into your middle back area. Squeeze and release. And you might check if your body is lined up, nose, sternum, and belly button. If your body started to relax out of a compensation and it's over to one side, you can make a correction. Squeeze the shoulder blades down and back. Find the middle back, rhomboids and mid trap to pull the shoulder blades in toward your spine. Ten more. And bring your legs back in. And then take your hands underneath the small of your back as long as your shoulders can do that. That's a big internal rotation of the shoulder. And then we'll move to the hip flexor. So hold your leg out like that. Lift your elbows off the floor and just hold. You'll feel your transverse abdominis have to activate. Keep the arch in your low back. And then work this hip flexion. So we're in hip flexion here. Just hold that hip flexion while the pelvis is level, stable, and not rotating because of the floor. And your shoulders get to react to that. Maybe your upper back, if there's tightness in the front of the shoulder, hopefully that starts to let go. You can notice maybe if there's a difference between one side and the other, and release that leg, switch sides, and hold the other leg up. You can bring your elbows up off the floor again, hold, feel your belly work. See if you can still take a deep breath, even though that transverse abdominis is having to stabilize for you. And you're maintaining the curve in your low back. Your head's still down on the floor for this one. Release. First side again. Hold it out there. Let's go pointed toes this time. Just really point to the bottom of the foot. Allow the whole bottom of the foot to squeeze in towards each other. You might even get a cramp around your toes or in your arches. Hold it out there. Elbows off the floor. Just hovering. And pull it in. Switch. Pointed toes. The muscles of the bottom of the foot and up the back of the calf get to work here. Big full breath. And release. All right, back to that knees coming into your chest, this time keeping that curve in your back. So hands are staying behind your back. And as you lift up, your pelvis will tip back a little bit, but see if you can still maintain some of that arch. That's going to increase the thoracic work and maybe even work into the shoulders. Bring it down. Let's do that 10 times. In, up, down, release. Pull the outside of your pinky toes down as you take it up there. Okay, so we did deep 6, then glutes. Let's go adductors now. Hip flexors, we did some transverse abdominis. We got all that to be there. Some lumbar erectors by gently holding that arch. Then you could keep the arch in your back by keeping your hands there or let them go, your choice. And give me a set of squeezes. Squeeze and release. As you make your adductors work, that main muscle on the inside of your leg that helps determine internal or external rotation of the femur, does 2 innervations, and it can help it go both ways, or if you're just squeezing in this way, it can also stabilize. It also has a relationship to the fascia up into your back and into your hip flexors, and if the adductors are working, sometimes those other muscles that may be compensating in a weird way, let's go. So as you squeeze in and hold that squeeze and make sure both sides are actually active, see if other parts of your pelvic girdle, low back area let go of whatever their compensation is. Now keep a squeeze in on that. Up on your toes, back on your heels. Work your soleus, the muscle up the back of your calf, and then front of your shin, anterior tib area, plantar flexors and dorsiflexors. And just see, do they feel even on both sides? Can you move your ankles in a similar way? All right, take that block away. Come back up to standing.
just check. Does that feel like there's more balance or more stability between the two sides? We're going to work that a little bit. So find your balance on one side and reach the other foot out, and then lift that leg out to the side. Find that lateral hip, abduct your hip and bring it back in. Go ahead and take it as high as possible without letting your whole trunk go sideways. So really get that last inch up there. Find those hip abductors. You can see if I started like this, the pelvis is crooked, abductors on one side tend to be short and the other side tend to be long. And the adductors on this side tend to be short and this side tends to be more open and long. And we're doing all of that to just bring that back to balance again. So finish up your 10 and then switch sides and lift. Good. Again. And switch. And then hamstring curl, keeping your knee down. So ears over shoulders over hips, keep that stable. And then curl the leg up. Find muscles deep in your knee. Feel if you can squeeze the actual knee joint together. And then release with your hamstring, control it. And then pull it back up. Hug that knee in as far as you can and release. Squeeze, release. And switch. Again, curl the knee, find the muscles in the knee joint. Deep muscles of the knee, all the way, all three hamstrings, hugging it in, and release. First side again. Curl it up and hold. Find it. Get them all to activate and work, and then control them as they go up and down. And switch. Hold it up there. Squeeze. Up and down. 10 times. Excellent. Grab your block. Place it between your upper inner thighs. Squeeze in on it. You can bend your knees a little bit here. Actually, let's go ahead and go up onto your toes. See if I can step back a little bit. Up onto your toes. Hug into your block. Take your arms into a cactus arm position. And then do some mini squats. Down and up. Squeezing in. Woo, my ankles.
Hold it stable. 10 little squats, down and up. And then set your heels back down. Take your legs to straight. Hold your arms up in a goalpost and then rotate them forward and back. Find the back side of your shoulders. So holding in on your adductors, we're again accessing this connection between adductors and psoas and standing. And then if you have any compensation in your shoulders, we're working that. Take your elbows by your side. You can be an inch or so out away from your waistline. Rotate your arms back and bring them back in. Find your external rotators of your shoulders to help reposition your shoulders while you're squeezing in on that block. And then arms all the way up, arm glides. So fully standing, squeezing that block. Relax your belly. Hug in. Feel that connection from the inside of your leg up to the inside of your femur, up to the where the psoas goes to your low back, that whole line of connection. And then move your shoulders freely. Arm glides. Maybe even feel a glute here. Butt muscles a little bit want to come on to hold you in neutral. Would not be strange. 10 more. Excellent. Take that away. Step back on your block. Let's go into a triangle position. So stepping wide, 1 foot forward, 1 foot back, wide stance, both legs straight, and then shift your hip back. You may want your block on the side of you if you have a hard time getting all the way down to the floor. Taking your hand down to your block and then reach up. Hold and breathe. Feel the whole line of the back of this leg. Feel your big toe pressing down into the floor. Spine is mostly straight here in a triangle, so not a big spinal bend, but most of that action happens at the level of the pelvis shifting. You may feel pull on the inside of your front knee or up that hamstring or maybe even in the calf. You may feel something out here in this outer hip if that's tight. 3 more deep breaths in through your nose. Good, come on up. Switch sides. Big wide stance. Feel that hip shift to the back. You can do that a couple times. Just explore how the femur has to move in the hip to get that hip to shift to the back. And then hand to your block if you want to, or somewhere on your leg. And reach up. Breathe. Breathe into this side of the body. Breathe into that front hamstring. Open that space. Three more deep breaths. In through your nose and out. Feeling your rib cage squeeze together. And then take both hands down to the floor. Cats and dogs. Arching your back. Letting your shoulders sink all the way together with your elbows strong and round all the way up. Tucking your tailbone. Sinking down. Shoulder blades move toward your middle back. Then your head can come up. And gently let your head tuck and slide as your body goes into rounding. Notice if you have pain or discomfort in either of these positions. In an effort not to pick the scab, don't go too far into either one. Just use it as information if there's discomfort. And then come down onto your back. We're going to use a crocodile twist to work those obliques that may be just in a different position. If you have a hip that's lower or elevated, arms straight out from your shoulders. Take your left toes and put them on top of your right heels. Left heel on top of your right toes. There we go. And then you're going to move your left hip up and over to the right. Tighten your thighs. You can squeeze your butt muscles. Use your obliques to pull that hip up and look all the way to the left. Hold it and breathe. We're going to hold it a full minute. Find your breath. Keep it there. Keep working your legs straight. Flex your ankles. Tighten your thighs. Squeeze your butt muscles. Find those belly muscles. They both need to lengthen and twist you right now. And your shoulders can just be moved down and back with some stability all the way at your hands, all the way out from the periphery, all the way into the core. Maybe a little more as your body lets go and is able to do that. Get that hip even higher. 10 more seconds. And release. Now right heel on top of your left toes and twist up and over. Use your hands down into the floor to provide that stability all the way at the edges into the core to help that twist happen. Notice if one side is easier than the other. Use your breath to allow more space between a hip and a rib cage, ribs and shoulders. Expand so that it can move. Thighs tight, butt tight. Last 10 seconds. And release. Both feet on the floor. Square your body up and do a set of pelvic tilts. So as you move down and back, letting the low back go into flexion, and then roll forward and extend the low back. Flex and extend. That can happen with belly muscles and back muscles. It can also happen at the base of your pelvic bowl, at your pelvic floor, and it can squeeze in and close that space and then open that space as you go into extension and close it up a little bit. Find the muscles all the way at the base of your pelvis to help you move between flexion and extension.
Okay, roll onto your belly and grab your block. So we're going to go into the psoas a little bit more. Sometimes the hip can be pulled forward with a quad or with the psoas, and we're going to use your block to just move the hip into some hip extension. If this feels like it's too much for your low back, I'll do it with this side first so you can see. So use your block and set your leg up on your block. That's about a little bit of hip extension. So you'll feel like the hip actually goes slightly behind you. Now, if this is too much for your lumbar spine, maybe put a pillow under your belly or use a smaller block, or just put your foot on the, put your knee on the ground and don't have it move that far back into extension. Okay, so if you feel like your body's really rotated, that's a good indicator that you have a quad or a psoas on this side that is not allowing for hip extension to happen. And it should feel like your pelvis can stay relatively level while your leg is moving back behind you. You could even put your hands on the front of your hip bones and kind of help that even out. Maybe even add some transverse abdominis if you were to push your fingers into your sides and have that be slightly active so that you get stability in your belly, so you're not just arching at your back, but you're actually getting true hip extension, not just lumbar extension. So find some of those. Feel what's right for your body. And then see if you can add a hamstring curl. That might be fine for some people and not so okay for others. Feel where you are today. So maybe transverse abdominis activation. Just feel, can you let that hamstring shorten, let the quad lengthen, let the psoas lengthen. And release. Press up and out of it. And then other side. And feel. If it suddenly just gets too much on your back, first start with trying to activate some stabilizers in your trunk and see if the stabilizers in your trunk can let that hip go back behind you more. And then curl if it feels okay for you. You could just hang here and breathe too. This might be plenty. And then come off of that. And then both feet on the floor. Find that new length, maybe in your low back. Let's do a set of double hamstring curls, just legs on the floor. Try to get your heels to touch your butt. They might not get all the way there, but squeeze so much. Squeeze the knees. Squeeze your hamstrings. If you feel like your whole low back just got a huge arch, lengthen your belly one more time and see if you can open that space and release it out. Curl it up. So there's a balance here between lumbopelvic rhythm, which means when you bend your legs up, your back moves into slight extension. But some people's back moves too much because the front of the thigh or hip is too tight. And so you can find some more abdominals to control that, and that will ask the hip to actually lengthen. So feel,
transverse abdominis, and let there be only a slight bit of motion here in this low back area. And it shouldn't feel pinchy. You should be able to do this without it feeling pinchy in this area. All right. Knees together, feet out. Go back into those deep six. We're in hip extension now instead of hip flexion. Find those rotators one more time. All the way out, all the way in. Letting your heels drop away from each other, and then bring your feet back together so they touch. Drop away and in. And then take them the other way. You might want to stay here. If your body can handle a little more extension, it feels good to you. Maybe bring your elbows underneath your shoulders. Take your forearms away from each other and keep drawing your elbows or your shoulder blades kind of down and back. Relax that area so that your spine moves into some extension. Feel that if this is right for your body. Some people's bodies love this. Feels great. Resets the position of the disc. Even can change the facets. Other people's bodies, especially if you've had an old injury in your back, it might say no way. So listen to your body on this one. Then press the bottom of your feet together until you feel it all the way up into your butt muscles. Press and release. Find those external rotators. Now we're working on the glutes. Before I said when our knees were bent, we were just finding it as a stabilizer. And now those glutes are working as deep six, rotating the femur and glutes as hip abductors and hip extenders. Both. They're in a shorter position here, so they should be able to work and stabilize for you. And bring your legs back in. Press back up onto your hands and knees again. And once more, round and arch your back. All right. Sit back onto your knees if you can. If your body will let you do that. Moving back towards a hero's pose. Bring your hands behind your head. Pull your elbows way back. We're going to add some hero squats to this. Put an arch in your low back. Go ahead and really find your primary hip flexors. So you're in deep hip flexion right now. Feel the front of your hips. Pull your pelvis and your spine into some extension. If it's okay, listen to your body. The more you pull your shoulders back and squeeze your shoulder blades kind of together, the easier that will be. And then gently press up if that's okay. Keep the arch in your back. Feel your hip flexors. Pull back in your shoulders and lower down. Again, if you have pain in this, skip this one. If it feels okay, stay there. We'll do 10 hero squats. Hi, kitty. No, thank you. All right. Come up to standing and then recheck. Feel the weight on your feet. Does it feel more even? Hopefully even your upper back feels like it's opening more. We've put you back in touch with the muscles that run up the whole back of the body, the posterior chain, and we've opened a lot of space in the front of your pelvis and hopefully reset that hip position a bit. Go ahead and find a spot to do an air bench, and we'll just hold that in. So going back to the wall, find a spot at the wall, come down, hey, no. And then allow your pelvis to tilt backwards. Feel each vertebra of your spine kind of move into that flexed position. And then into thoracic extension as your shoulders come back. Feel your quads turn on. About 30 more seconds. Hang in there. Keep pressing your low back flat. Use those thigh muscles. And come on out of that. All right, find your seated position or lying down position. Consciously spend the next couple of moments to just allow the rest of your day to drop away and show up right here for these few moments where you get to be present to the sensations and experience right now. Simply allow your body to turn into sensation, being supported by the floor. And notice the kind of that your mind is part of your body, and your mind may need a little bit of a jog, just slightly. So you could give attention to your breathing. And allow your mind to just follow your breath. Without manipulating your breath or doing anything to it, just allow it to simply follow that. And again, just like the lungs breathe and the heart beats, your mind thinks, you'll feel thoughts arise. And you can just notice them as a sensation of energy arising in this
quiet space. But give your attention to the space. The space between my words. The space between your breath. That space of awareness is always there. Simply giving our attention to that space allows for a change in experience from being ruled by the thoughts in our mind to just noticing that thoughts arise. Giving attention to that space allows for us to recognize conditioning, conscious or unconscious, and begin to step outside of our conditioning. Bring your attention to your visual field. Even if your eyes are closed, and just kind of open and expand the space in your visual field. And notice if anything arises in the visual field. And if it does, can you see whatever it is just as a bundle of energy? Or just check it out. Where's it coming from? And then turn your attention to what's observing that which is arising. Like you're turning attention on itself. Come back to your breathing. Come
Come back to the sensations of your body and the floor. And before you come all the way out of that, notice what's noticing your body. Can you pinpoint a place in your brain or a place in consciousness that notices the sensations of your body? Or is that also simply arising in this space of consciousness? Just try. And then begin to open your eyes and come back to this space. If you'd like to say something, please unmute yourself.